Hello and welcome to week number 3, Beginning Networking 1, and we'll be talking about Chapter 2, the Network Protocols and Standards this week. So your assignments are going to be to read Chapter 2 in the book, the 7th edition, CompTIA Network Plus Certification Study Guide, and that'll cover your network protocols and standards. And then for labs, we're going to have complete the configuring Ethernet networking, and that'll be part 1 for 20 points, and just upload a print screen in the appropriate folder down here. And these are the videos to watch for this week. It's going to cover a lot of different topics, and these videos are a pretty good way of picking this material up pretty quick. And then we're going to take the Network Plus Take 10 challenge. So once you do that, you'll just upload a print screen that you completed that. And we also are going to have an opportunity for extra credit. So we'll talk about that here in just a second. Let's go back to the Take 10 challenge. So here's the link for it. And you'll just take this quiz here. And once you're done, just take a print screen and upload it. And then for the extra credit, we have CompTIA's simulation, example simulation. This is just a generic one to kind of give you an idea of what you would expect on the CompTIA Network Plus exam. Usually they have anywhere from 2 to 6 of these type of questions on the exam. So the more practice you get with these, the better. And I'll have more examples as we go through the course for you. And you're probably already watching it now, but be the lecture. I got to put the new one up here. So anyways, I do have my lab working. I got that renewed. So let's do that again. I did renew it today, so we should be able to log out and log back in and have that work. So let's see here. Now you know my password. It's circle, 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 circle. It's a computer joke. Okay, so it's launching my labs now. And this can take a minute, so I'll pause the video and start it when it comes on. Okay, so the lab has loaded, and you have a virtual environment that you're in. And this is the first lab here, so you have your instructions, you have your resources, and you have help here if you need some help. So this is what the lab environment looks like. And as you scroll down, it just has different tasks that you have to do, and you can check those off as you go. So this is the lab environment, and it's fairly good. I like it in place of the actual hands-on. So this can give you a lot of the experience that you'll need for the exam. Okay, so that's the what the labs will look like. And going back here, so I think that covers just all the assignments for the week. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about the Chapter 2 Network Protocol. Okay, I just wanted to point out some of the highlights here for Chapter 2 for you. The 2-minute drill does a real good job of this, and it kind of summarizes everything that you've read. So packets and protocols are the fundamental building blocks of all the data transmission over the network. So what are they talking about with these network protocols? So let's take a look at what these really are and how they relate to the OSI model. So the OSI model is going to be a 7-layer model that kind of dictates what happens at each layer. So in the physical layer, the data link layer, the network layer, transport, session, presentation, and application. different things happen on each of these different layers. And so on the application, you're going to have network process, you're going to have data representation and encryption on 6. Interhost communications are going to happen on 5. End-to-end connections are going to be 4. Path determination is going to be the network, and physical addressing is going to be data link, and the physical layer is going to be like your cables and so forth. And then you have protocols which operate at these different layers. So like DNS is domain name server, and that works for translating URLs into IP addresses. So like www.homedepot.com really isn't www.homedepot.com. It's an IP address of some sort. And so the DNS server is what does the translation there. And then you have HTTP, you have the email protocols, and on down here for the physical, you have RS-232, RJ45, V.34. There's just a whole bunch. So you have to know what protocols operate on which layer, and then you also have to know what the layers do. So this is a pretty important part of the course here. And what I want to go over with you is the ports and protocols. So there's a whole list of ports and protocols. So like we just talked about DNS, so we'll just focus in on that one. So it's the domain name system, and it revolves domain names to corresponding IP addresses, and it's going to use TCP 53 and UDP 53. So TCP is the connection orientated, and UDP has no connection. So what that means is the TCP, since it's connection orientated, is going to get it's going to request acknowledgement that the other end received its transmission, and if it doesn't get it, then it'll send that packet again, or frame, or whatever. So with UDP, it doesn't do that. So it just sends it, and you either get it or you don't. And an example of that would be like you're streaming a Netflix movie or something, and it kind of fuzzes out on you and you miss some of it, and then it comes back on. So you just had some sort of problem with your internet, and it went out for a second, and then the movie comes back and it's not where it was, but it continued playing. So you just missed that little part. So that's kind of like an example of the connectionless type. It sent it, it didn't get there, you didn't get to see that part of your movie, but it still continues playing. So okay, so and here they're going to go through the OSI model, and I like I said, I really think it helps to see the picture, something like this, where you can visualize what's happening on each layer. So here it kind of defines what the OSI model is. It talks about the different layers and how different things operate, different protocols operate on different layers of the OSI model. So it goes through and summarizes this up pretty good for you, and then talks about, we get down to talking about the IP addresses, and those are at layer 3, and MAC addresses, which are at layer 2, and ports are going to be layer 4. Okay, it talks a lot about the 802.11 standards. So these are just standards that are put in place by basically the IEEE, and they've created different groups within the networking world to define the standards. So 802.3 is going to be your Ethernet, and 802.5 is token ring, and 802.11 is going to be the wireless. So why don't we just take a look real quick at the 802.11 here, and I'll show you what those look like. Okay, so we have 802.11a, and you're going to see it operates at 2.4 gigahertz. I'm sorry, it operates at the 5 gigahertz frequency band, and then it's going to have speeds associated with it where it's 54 megabits. And then 802.11b, you're going to see also has, it's going to be the 2.4 band, and it's going to go up to 11 megabits. So let me see if I can find a chart for this real quick. Be easier to look at. Okay, so here we go. So 802.11a was in 1999, 5 gigahertz, 54 megabits, and 802.11b, 2.4, 11, 802.11, 2.4, and 54. So you can see that each one has a different frequency band and the maximum data transfer rate. So as you're going through the years, you can see the technology really progressing and getting better. Now, you'll have to know for the test, you'll have to know the frequency band for each one, and you'll have to know the data transfer rates. So the way I remember this is high, low, low, both, high, high. And then high, low, high, medium, high, super high, and super high is how I kind of do that, because it's hard to remember all the numbers. So just come up with a little trick that'll help you remember those. Okay, so that's kind of the 802.11. They define the standards, so like the maximum transmission and the frequencies and different things, and then they do the same thing in the 802.3 and 5. So a couple other things I wanted to show you here is, so here it just goes over all the ports, so the protocols. So like DHCP, you're going to have to know what that does. You're going to have to know that it operates on UDP 6768. DNS, you're going to have to know what it does and that it operates on TCP 53, UDP 53. And then FTP, file transfer protocol, is TCP, and it operates on 20 and 21. So basically you have to know what the acronym is, know what it stands for, and know what it does, and know which ports it uses. And this will be a large portion of networking, and this kind of lays a lot of the foundation for the course and just your career in general. So CompTIA has some information out on their page, which I think is pretty good, and it talks about what a network protocol is and how does it work, and it gets into like the IEEE and some of the other players that help with these standards and so forth, and who uses network protocols. And then they break them into communication, network management, and security, so forth. So you can go through and kind of check this out, and I think that's a pretty good resource for you. Okay, so real world example of protocols. So I used to work for a company called Applied Innovation, and what we did was we made these boxes, these chassis, and these type of different cards could go in this, and you could configure this a multitude of different ways. And this box was like a language translator. So think of like you're traveling overseas, you're in Japan on vacation, and you can't speak Japanese, so you have a translator who can translate for you, so you can talk to people in Japan. So this box is the equivalent to that translator, except it doesn't do English to Japanese. It does like RS-232 to IP. So we would have customers that would order these machines, and they would have a certain configuration that they needed to translate, and then we would put in the right cards and program them and so forth to do what they needed to be done. And you can see there's different kinds of connectors on these. So you could go from like RS-232 or X.25 to TCP/IP. So the reason they'd want to do that is they have a lot of older network and they're building new network, but they don't want to replace all their old network because it still works and it's expensive to replace that stuff. So they would order one of these machines from us and stick it in the middle and plug both networks into it, and then the new network could talk to the old network, even though they were different protocols, because this machine would translate for them. So that's kind of an example of real world stuff. Now, these machines, this company's long out of business. I worked there back in the 1990s, so it doesn't exist anymore. But there's still a big need for translating protocols and things like that. So there's a lot of type of machines that out there that still do this. So you could possibly run across something like this in your career with networking. So I think that's the main topics I wanted to touch on with you for this week. Look at the self-quiz here and make sure that you can go through and you got a good handle on how to answer these type of questions, and the answers, of course, are in the back here. So just to recap real quick, week 3, you've got your CompTIA Network Plus certification study guide reading. So that's chapter 2. You got to do this lab here, part 1, 20 points, and then these videos here, which are pretty good videos. Professor Messer does a pretty good job with these. And then you're going to have the Take 10 challenge, and you're going to have, let's see, I'll probably add a discussion so we can all kind of interact with each other. And you got your extra credit here as well. So, all right. Well, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. And preview for looking ahead next week will be the Chapter 3 networking components. And so that's where we'll be going next week. All right. Like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Other than that, have a wonderful week, and I will talk to you next week.